Once this happened, society evolves to transhumanism, and then they can take over humanity, because once you merge with machines, is it still you? Once you merge with artificial intelligence, is it still you? Are your thoughts belong to you? So Elon Musk wants to put a neural lace inside of you, but basically, you have a surgery and he puts a little lace in a digital layer in your brain and connect to the 5G network, and you wouldn't need smartphones. But there's a process of it rewriting part of your brain. That happens automatically. When that happens, that means you no longer have free-form thoughts. Your wishes, your desires, your understanding, your experience doesn't come from real-world free will. It actually comes from download or being hooked up to a machine. That means you're no longer human. You are a program, a computer program. You're losing your free will. Thus, when these robots come in and they're your companions or they're teaching your kids stuff, it assimilates everybody with their emotions and their thoughts. They accept these robots. Thus, it becomes a symbiotic relationship. What do I mean by that? It becomes natural as if they're your pet. But then once they connect to a 5G network and even to get close to AGI, artificial general intelligence, they will be smarter and overpower humans in a subliminal way that people won't even realize it, because humans have emotions. Robots do not. And if they get emotions, they become very dangerous. So either way, if it's AGI, artificial general intelligence, it's dangerous. If not, then there's a simulation process. So it's a very, very thin line. Even today, people are fighting. The left and the conservatives are fighting each other on a digital platform, on a war. I'm on Twitter all the time. And imagine that on the 4G network, how all this stuff is happening, and people are being, in a sense, in a hive mind, controlled with emotions to fight each other back and forth. What happens with 5G networks when robots come in? It's so fast, millimeter waves. They're not built for human beings, they're built for machines. That means your perception will be altered. They can control humanity, or a government can, or a corporation can, without you realizing, by just attaching to your emotions. I can go very deep into this, but that's another discussion. So it's very dangerous to have these robots come in. And with this pandemic, as I put in my book, that once this bioweapon hits and China tries to take over the world, then robots come in, machines come in, because you have to be tested, or you're sick with COVID, or what I call this the CP virus, the Chinese Communist Party virus. It should be called that, actually.
Interesting.
So basically, it comes into your home. You lose control. And then when tech companies, police, governments start using these machines, forget about your Second Amendment. Forget if you're a liberal conservative, no machine gun or AK whatever is going to be able to defeat drones, micro drones, or these robots like Boston Dynamics. Look at my book; it's all in there.
Let me ask you this: if China takes over Taiwan or even attempts it, is that a barometer of things to happen? What's going to be that point that you say, "See, I told you so"?
Well, it can't be I told you so. So right now we need to make a move. The first move is that the administration, I really hope it must be done, because the world's in danger. Liberals and conservatives must stop fighting each other, because it really has to do with the safety of all the world's citizens. So they need to come together, and we need to expose the Chinese Communist Party fast for all the human rights violations. And if to a certain point, and they're not going to budge, then they have to prevent it from. So they've been trying to prevent Iran from reaching nukes. And I'm from Iran, right? And their government, they've done a lot of human rights violations, but they still have a certain sanity. They're not as evil as the Chinese regime is. In my book, I put in there that they call blacks apes. They call whites pigs. They call Arabs and Jews rodents.
Well, be careful what you say.
Well, it's a fact. We have evidence of this, and there's actually videos of this as well. It was on Twitter. So they insulted every race, and this is what they think of human beings. And if they don't agree with that, they think of you as roaches. So imagine this type of thinking, this rogue terrorist regime having not only hypersonic missiles, not only nukes, not only all these F-35 fighters and the 5G systems connecting the entire world, but imagine them creating artificial general superintelligence. They'll endanger the entire planet.
How far have they gone?
Based on the way they're going, I would say they could reach that within a couple of years.
So they're about 70. They're 60 to 70% there then.
Yeah, so their 5G towers and their systems are really not very good. So they hooked up a lot of these things, and it's not doing too well for them. We have better systems. That being said, they have the algorithms and the know-how to create something. It won't be them making it. You see, it will be the machines making it for them. Once they get the algorithms right and they get the theories right, and then they create quantum technology, then the machine create it for them. So it's not no longer Chinese making it, it's the machines making it for them. It becomes an automated process once they have the proper algorithms and the proper data and they know how to make AGI. Then the AGI itself will make it artificial superintelligence. Thus, my point was this. Everyone's screaming about Iran want to nuke people, we have to stop them. I was never for the war in 2003. I was never for any wars. But I'm for saving the human race from the Chinese communist regime. And it can be done if the entire world exposes them now. And there's a part of redemption, too. I'm not a religious person, but we all had a part, whether if we're conservative or liberal, we're complicit. We need to look inside, and from the bottom of our hearts, we need to ask forgiveness. Why were we silent in all these people? Like, we were all wearing a mask for 20 years. How many people died and got put in camps, and we were set, we had business with them? How many people? Think about it. So we need to ask forgiveness. And we need to become better ourselves. Wherever, even myself, I need to become better. But we all need to do. And then we need to expose this regime.
Well, we need some aerials of these concentration camps and places like that. Let's go to Tom in Riverside, California. Tom, go ahead.
Hello, George. So,
hey, Thomas.
To ask your guest about this reigns of genocide, and on a much higher level than the Nazis managed in World War II even. And I mean, the world, we don't have to do this on our own. We can call the world in on this. I mean, this is...
well, no, you're right. The United Nations should jump in. Why aren't they doing anything about this, Cyrus?
Because they're bought and paid for through social manipulation by the Chinese regime. They have a seat in the United Nations, on the Council of the Chinese Communist Party, and they have made deals with other nations behind the scenes that hates America and other countries. So, in a sense, they've been controlling nine nations, and they influence who as well? The World Health Organization and the WTO and the United Nations. And so many businesses still were fighting the administration wanting to have access to China, even after what happened with COVID, CC virus. Think about it. We need the people to wise up. Liberals and conservatives need to understand this is wrong. And there are aerial views. Our government, our CIA, and our Pentagon has images. They released some about the Uyghurs, the other ones. And how many people are witnesses living in America and Australia and New Zealand and Canada and other places that have been in these camps?
If a reporter from the New York Times went to investigate this story and then went to China, would he ever be seen again?
If the reporter investigated the story here, they would find a lot of witnesses. They went to China at this moment, they wouldn't be shown anything.
They'd be arrested, wouldn't they?
If they went deep enough to try to get the truth, they'd be arrested. Yes, especially at this. The Chinese regime made a threat. Recently said that, because we're arresting their so-called scholars, then they're going to arrest just normal Americans off the street. And think about it. I was in my bachelor's, and I was in my Chinese class back in 2006, and I was the fifth person to talk. And the fourth person, two visiting scholars came in, were in a suit, and I looked over at my professor and said, "Hey, who are these guys? Why are they here?" And he says to me, "Oh, the scholars." Okay. So I get up to talk. I'm the fifth person. I talk about organ harvest. As soon as I did that, they got up on their suits. They took pictures of me with the SLR, and they ran out. This is 2006 at San Diego State University, before my whole master's program. And I look over to the guy, and this is the dean, or the chair. He was in on it. And I said, "Oh, this is the scholars, right?" So then these guys, with these scholars and other ones, later on created the Confucius Institute at San Diego State University, which got taken out recently. So think about it. These scholars are not scholars. A lot of them are spies, or they make friends with our scholars who make friends with our Americans.
That's a good spy if they can do that and pull it off.
Yes, and here's the thing: it's for soft power, and there are people who have made great friends with Chinese scholars, and that guy may not be a spy, but his families are used.
They're blackmailed, aren't they?
They're blackmailed. If not that, they're used through the ideology. Well, the U.S. government has been bad in this country, that country. We have a poor human rights. What they do is amplify. So if this country has had issues in the past, we're not angels, okay? But if we've had issues in the past, the Chinese Communist regime goes, finds people who hate a certain administration or they hate a certain ideology of this country, they amplify that.
Well, just think of movies when a mob is trying to get somebody to rat on somebody or to get information from them, and they got him tied to a chair and they're smacking him and beating him, and the guy still doesn't talk. All of a sudden, they get a cell phone and put it up to the guy's ear, and it's the guy's wife screaming.
Right.
So they go after the family.
That's what they do in multiple different ways. So, yes, everybody, whether if we continue fighting each other, the liberals and conservatives, there could be a civil war. And if we fight about election issues, China will enslave everybody. That's what I put in my book. Everybody give me a lot of credit, not just some credit. I was right about the COVID.
You're right about COVID. I'm going to give you that.
Yes, and the AI takeover, and it came from China, and the bioweapon or the virus.
And you're probably right about the harvesting of organs.
That's true, and I was right about all the apps because they start getting everything that's been happening. It's like I had a time machine. So either they copied off my stuff, and they were right.
Do you think when the president demanded that TikTok be sold to an American company, that he might have heard you either on this program or something and said?
He heard me on Twitter because everybody, please, if you're liberal conservative, follow me on Twitter, Cyrus A. Parson 1. I put out a tweet a week prior to that, or 2 weeks prior to that. It was about TikTok, how it's been spying by using backdoors on your child's information, even on its body.
But what do they do with it?
They use it for porn and deep fakes.
Just like sick games.
Or for games or other kind of stuff. Because Chinese are Chinese. They like people who are of a different race. And other thing, they'll sell it. That's one. But then I did a tweet. It was a sex tape tweet.
And let's make sure everybody knows you're talking about the Chinese government, not the Chinese people.
No, we love the Chinese people. Again, how many followers do I have are Chinese? Over 20,000, right?
That's a lot of people.
A lot of people, right. So the thing is, I put out a tweet. It was called Subpoena This on July 18th. That got me 20,000 followers in a matter of 20 minutes.
Cyrus, that's huge, my friend. We'll keep in touch. The name of the book, Artificial Intelligence, Dangers to Humanity. But following the story that we had tonight where some government officials are saying, keep an eye on China. They're looking at Taiwan. I'm George Norrie. Back in a moment with David Weatherly, Haunted Dolls on Coast to Coast AM.
This is Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie.
Up next, our friend David Weatherly back with us. Now, he's the one who brought us the story of the black-eyed children. Now he's bringing us Eerie Companions, a history of haunted dolls. Get ready for that, and we will take your phone calls in the latter part of the program tonight. One, if you've had an experience with a haunted doll, and they are creepy, aren't they? So check in with us, and we'll be back with David in a moment on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie with you. David Weatherly back with us, the Renaissance man of the strange and the supernatural. He has traveled the world in search of mysterious monsters, ghosts, magic, folklore, and legends. And from dusty castles to strange remote islands to ancient sites, he's been there. He has journeyed to the most unusual places on the globe, seeking the unusual. David has become fascinated with the weird and the unusual at a very early age, and for decades, he has charted a course of exploration and investigation of the unexplained. David, welcome back, my friend.
George, good to talk to you.
Looking forward to this. And how young were you when you got interested in these unusual things?
Well, I was one of those kids who grew up loving ghost stories and, hearing my grandmother tell different tidbits of old folklore and such. So, by the time I was in my early teens, I was actively investigating stuff. And, of course, that was the 1970s. It wasn't a very hip thing back then. I always tell people when I got into this field, if I went to a party, I was guaranteed a nice, quiet evening alone as soon as I mentioned what I was interested in, because nobody wanted to hear, about ghosts or Bigfoot or UFOs and things like that. And, stay away from this guy. But it's kind of the polar opposite now. I go to a gathering and mention what I do, and there's a queue out the door because everybody has a story to tell.
Yeah, now you're the center of attention when you bring it up.
Yes, so.
Oh, that's fantastic. And you have brought us over the years, David, some great stories. I mean, how many years you been on Coast with us now?
Oh, gosh, I can't even remember. 10, maybe?
At least. Gosh, and I'll always remember the Black Eyed Kids. That incredible book, The Black Eyed Children, is it's still haunting. You know that? People picture these kids coming to your door. You know, let us in. It's something.